All right, we've got some uniform news for the 49ers here on the Lombardi Lounge Podcast. Those of you watching on YouTube, you could see the beautiful uniforms right in front of you. But for those of you listening, I'll describe what uniforms the 49ers are wearing. This is courtesy of Matt Mayoko on Twitter. The 49ers traditional red uniforms. So red tops, gold pants. They're going to be wearing those week 1 at home against the Jets on Monday Night Football. Week 3, that's going to be against the Rams. That game is in LA at SoFi, but it's pretty much a 49ers home game anyway. So they're going to be wearing their traditional red home uniforms with the gold pants on the road against the Rams. Week 4 against the Patriots, traditional reds, gold pants. Week 5 against the Cardinals at home. Week 7 against Kansas City, the game that is very, very anticipated. Super Bowl rematch that is at Levi's Stadium. Last time that the Chiefs came to Levi's, that was the 2022 season, the 49ers were actually wearing their 94 throwbacks with the white pants. This time, they're going to mix things up. They're going to be wearing the gold pants and the red tops against the Chiefs at home. Week 10 at Tampa Bay, 49ers will be wearing red uniforms. Florida teams, they often like to wear their white uniforms at home, maybe for heat reasons, although this is going to be later in the year in Tampa Bay. But the 49ers will be wearing the reds with the gold pants on the road. Week 11 against Seattle at home, 49ers will be in the red and the gold. Week 14 against Chicago at home, same thing. And week 15 against the Rams at home, the 49ers will be wearing those reds with the gold pants. So those are the games: the Jets, the Rams, the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Chiefs, the Bucks, the Seahawks, the Bears, and the Rams again, where the 49ers are going to be wearing those traditional red uniforms. Traditional white, that means white tops and gold pants. Week 2 at Minnesota, 49ers are going to be wearing those. Week 12 at Green Bay, the 49ers are going to be in the traditional road uniforms. Same thing as week 13 against Buffalo. So that 2-game road trip straddling the Thanksgiving holiday will see the 49ers wearing their traditional road uniforms with the gold pants. Week 16 at Miami. San Francisco is going to head down to Florida. They will be in the white uniforms. And Week 18, a game they hope is meaningless. They hope they have the 1 seed locked up by then. Week 18 at Arizona, the 49ers will be wearing their white uniforms. The red throwbacks, these are the throwbacks to the 1994 season and a bit before then, back to the 1950s. But to the 1994 season, the last time the 49ers won the Super Bowl, that means red jerseys, white pants. The 49ers are going to be wearing those in Week 8 against the Dallas Cowboys. That is a home game. And in Week 17 against the Detroit Lions, that is another home game. So the red throwbacks, 49ers won the Super Bowl in those back in January 1995. They're busting those out against the Cowboys and the Lions. Finally, the all-white version of those uniforms, the road version of those uniforms, 49ers will be wearing those in Seattle in early October. That is week 6. The 49ers have worn those in Seattle multiple times, including when they clinched the division to close the 2019 season. This time, they're going to be headed back up to the Pacific Northwest wearing those uniforms. That's the first part of your daily update. Second part of your daily update involves Brandon Aiyuk and the receiving position. And I think so many people talk about Brandon Aiyuk and how efficient of a receiver he was. And they also talk about the fact that because the 49ers have so many weapons, that his target share wasn't quite as big as some of these other A-list receiver names like Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. But a lot of these discussions then forget to mention the fact that Brandon Aiyuk blocks better than all of these other A-list receivers. And it's so important for 49ers receivers to block because the Shanahan offense is predicated on adaptability. You've got to be able to credibly run a running play out of a passing formation and credibly threaten a passing play out of a running formation. And the only way that you can do that, the only way you can succeed and have a top 5 rushing offense, which is what the 49ers consistently have, is if the receivers block on the perimeter. And that's one thing that Brandon Aiyuk, you go back to the 65-yarder against the Pittsburgh Steelers from Christian McCaffrey to open the second half. Aiyuk blocked two guys. He blocked Alex Highsmith, the defensive end, and then he sprinted forward and he took out DeMonte Casey, the safety. Blocked two guys within the span of 4 seconds on that play. He's one of the best in the game at blocking on the perimeter, and that brings a lot of value to the 49ers. Their former receiver, Willie Snead IV, was on a podcast where he discussed that blocking ability from the 49ers wideouts, and he zeroed in a lot on Brandon Aiyuk and Juwan Jennings.
They got to be all in. That's one thing I'll say about our group in not Baltimore, but San Fran, was that we was all in on blocking, from Aiyuk to Debo to definitely JJ. Like, all of us took blocking very seriously. And we knew if we got our blocks, like, there was a chance that Christian or Elijah was going to break for a touchdown. Because most of the time, if not all the time, the front, they was going to get their blocks. Because that's how much film we was watching. Like, Kyle would spend so much time on film, like, during the week, it was, like, crazy. But he would just watch so much film to where it's like, what you're trying to accomplish. And with the perimeter guys, like, we're the second level. So if Christian breaks through the first 7, it's going to either be a DB or safety making the tackle. And at that point, it's on the receiver. So you get like, pointed out. It's like, dude, are you going to get this block? Because it's like, if you're not going to block this dude, like, we got to get in there somebody that's going to block. So if BA, because BA don't like to come out the game. If he don't want to come out the game, then he's going to be blocking every play. And he takes, like, if you pull up some of the tape, I know you've seen some of the big blocks BA has. Like, JJ is incredible with it. Debo's a finesser with it, but, like, those guys are all in.
That is Willie Snead on the NOF Network podcast, talking about the importance of blocking for 49ers receivers. So when we, discuss the contract negotiations with Brandon Aiyuk and leverage and importance to the 49ers, you have to remember that this was the number one offense in football last season. And it was that way because the sum of its collective parts. Brock Purdy is obviously fantastic. We'll have a little bit more of a look at Brock Purdy here in a second. But the weapons for the 49ers, they work so cohesively, not just as far as the sum of the parts as when the pass game goes, but also because they're all able to threaten run action when they're in that football game. And I think that Willie Snead highlighted that very, very effectively. So moving forward, that's part of the value proposition. And that's why Brandon Aiyuk is more valuable to the 49ers than he is to other teams at this point. And the 49ers have him under contract for this 2024 season. And with him under contract, it's going to take a whole heck of a lot to pry him away from San Francisco. He can request a trade for reasons of rocking the boat and trying to secure a better deal from the 49ers, but the 49ers do not have to oblige that request, and there is very little reason for them to oblige that request short of a Godfather offer from another team, because he is so important to them and so valuable to them, not just in the pass game, but also in the run game. And the offense requires balance. It requires both of those ingredients to function. Speaking of balance, well, why don't we watch the 49ers last drive against the Packers in that divisional playoff game one more time and begin with this, the Purdy throw to Juwan Jennings. The 49ers had really focused on establishing the threat of the run all game to set themselves up for stuff like this later in the game. Purdy over Keyshawn Nixon's head. That was something. By the way, I broke this all down in the video yesterday, so if you want the extended full game version of this, go ahead and make sure you check it out. Just for good measure, we're going to go through it one more time, and we'll see Brock Purdy pulling a Joe Montana, leading the 49ers downfield when they absolutely had to have it based on the game score. I mean, their season was on the line here in the divisional playoffs. They're down to the Packers. They had been struggling throughout the course of the game. Brock it had been a game, I think, marked by the long layoff for the 49ers, the bye week, and by the rain. He wasn't all too accurate in this game, but when he had to be accurate, when he had to show up and deliver, he absolutely did. This is the penultimate drive for the 49ers. We're going to move into the last drive. I wanted to show you that Juwan Jennings conversion, though. This sets the table really nicely, what we're seeing right here. some of the misfires. That one to George Kittle. You're going to see one to Ray McLeod in a second. This sets the table really nicely for what Purdy was able to do when push came to shove. And it was later found out that this was definitely McLeod's fault. He broke out instead of breaking in, depending on the leverage. You'll see it from this angle. Purdy was throwing to a spot, and Ray McLeod was not there. That forced the 49ers to punt the ball away on third down, set up their final chance in this game. And on their final chance, we saw Brock Purdy get the job done. First to Jauan Jennings, near side, taking what the defense could give him. It is crunch time. Kyle Shanahan loves running some of those boot action plays to get his quarterback into a rhythm. It worked there for Jauan Jennings. By the way, I'm working on the Detroit Lions film review for the 49ers, the NFC Championship game. That game was dry. It was warm. Purdy was a whole lot better in that football game, and he was not only taking what the defense would give him, but he was also pushing the ball downfield with a lot of accuracy, even off schedule against the Lions. It's a lot of fun to watch, especially when you consider that it's back-to-back with this performance against the Packers, which featured this really crisp drive at the end. They needed the first down. Brock Purdy gives it to them. The quarterback sneak has become reliable. By the way, Brock Purdy's got such a strong base. This is going to become a thing when I analyze that tape against the Lions because he starts bouncing off of sacks and shrugging off defenders. You know, Josh Allen might have a stronger base. Maybe Jalen Hurts rivals Brock Purdy. Dak Prescott's got a strong base as well. But Purdy's in the top 3 or the 4 in the league with the size of his quads, the power that he has there. He's got the elite 10-yard split, and he's got the ability to shake defenders off with that very strong base. You saw it come through there on that quarterback sneak. All right, drive is continuing. He's using his outlet man, Christian McCaffrey, as he should. He's taking what the defense gives him. This is a master class in running time off of the clock. It's what the 49ers needed to do. Underneath, oh no, the drop from George Kittle. That wasn't good. That was a second down play. It put the 49ers in a tough spot. This is something you don't often see from George. But here you just couldn't hold on to the football with Keyshawn Nixon and the current 49er, Devondre Campbell there, number 59, bearing in on him. Put the pressure on this play. Aiyuk out of the slot, working against Nixon. I mean, first of all, Purdy threads the needle. Second of all, that's a hell of a catch. Third of all, you're going to be able to see everything here from this end zone angle. Look at that. There's not much separation there. Keyshawn Nixon had a rough go of it this game. 49ers made play after play after play against him, including that one to Jennings. That was to Nixon. How about this? That throw is on Chris Conley before he comes out of his break. That's impressive stuff from Brock Purdy. I think the end zone angle does this one better. 5-step drop, steps up in the pocket. Look at that. That's elite. And now he's really cooking with gas. To be able to make that throw to the sideline, even if this is, a situation where it's wet outside, the fact that Brock Purdy was able to do that is super impressive. By the way, those of you listening on the podcast, I know you can't see the video. Check out the YouTube channel. We're cross-platform around here. Maybe this is just bringing back some memories, though. Maybe you're just listening play-by-play on the radio. If you're not seeing the video of this as it's happening. Purdy just hit Kittle on an inbreaker to set the 49ers up at the Packers' 18-yard line. McCaffrey to the left. They're starting to knock on the door. They're getting closer and closer. Crunch time of the divisional playoffs. What is that for Christian McCaffrey? We'll say a good 3 yards, maybe a good 4 yards inside the 15-yard line. It sets it up for Brock to scramble. His legs were such a big part of the NFC Championship game, but they're also a huge part of this game against the Green Bay Packers. The 49ers needed his legs to get down into point-blank scoring range. Quick little outlet to Christian McCaffrey, and this is what sets up the really impressive Brock Purdy run. Against the Green Bay defense that was staying at home for the most part. I mean, here, zone defense, everybody's covered. Not worth a risky throw for Brock Purdy. And the one window that he has to pick up about 9 yards on the ground, he takes. And I mentioned the strong base. I also mentioned the 10-yard split. I mean, he can get out of dodge really quickly. It surprised the Packers here. They're winded too. You could see them chasing him. And it also surprised the Detroit Lions the next week. Sets everything up for the grand finale, and that is Christian McCaffrey taking it into the end zone over the right side. The Brock Purdy, Joe Montana moment. Don't miss the tape. It's available for you up on the channel. Jamie and Jen, our friends, going crazy in that front row over in the background. For good measure, I know those of you who watched this when we debuted it, you loved it. We're going to go back to Jordan Love. Crossbody, something Purdy I don't think would ever do in that situation. We've seen him throw some interceptions. We've seen him throw across his body, but that just doesn't make sense from Jordan Love's perspective. Dre Greenlaw intercepts it, and the 49ers will be able to get out of Dodge. One more time from Jordan Love. Why, oh why, is he doing this? Rolling to his right. It's like Brett Favre against the Vikings later in his career. All right, well, for the Vikings against the New Orleans Saints later in his career. And Dre Greenlaw, get down, Dre, get down. He does. 49ers win. So we'll have that look at the tape of the Lions game coming for you tomorrow. And then maybe if you want, you just let me know, but tape of the 49ers in the Super Bowl can come next after that. We're getting closer and closer to training camp, by the way. 49ers are going to report with their veterans on Tuesday, the 23rd. Right now it's Thursday, the 18th. The rookies are in the building. I anticipate that the first day of practice will be on July 24th, although we don't have official word yet. That's probably going to come in tomorrow from the 49ers. They've been, in the past, they have practiced 3 days on, 1 day off. So that would mean 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th off, back on the 28th, but I'm not sure about that yet. Either way, probably 3 days on, 1 day off based on when they start. We'll head into the first preseason game against the Tennessee Titans. It's going to be here in Nashville on August 10th. We have it confirmed that the joint practices in Orange County against the New Orleans Saints will be August 15th and 16th. That's going to be down at UC Irvine. The Rams used to hold their training camp at Irvine, but they've moved up to Loyola Marymount. That means that the Irvine location is open, and the Saints, along with 5 other teams, will be holding their training camp in the state of California. It's going to be a home game for the 49ers against the Saints on August 18th. That is a Sunday, Levi Stadium, but they'll be practicing down in Irvine on the 15th and the 16th. That's shortly after they get back from Nashville, the preseason game against the Titans. After that, the 49ers are going to head to Vegas. That is for a Friday night game. That is the final preseason game, August 23rd against the Raiders. Then it is Labor Day weekend off, and week 1 preparations. First practice for the Jets is going to be on September 5th. That is a Thursday because that game is a Monday night game. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday practice. September 8th walkthrough. September 9th against the Jets, where, yes, bring it back to the top of the show, the 49ers will wear the red uniforms with the gold pants. Now, as far as Brandon Aiyuk goes and the potential fines and the schedule of all of that and how that might work for the 49ers and the receiver contractually, well, every single day of training camp that Brandon Aiyuk potentially misses, it is a $40,000 fine. The 49ers can forgive it. The only players that you can forgive it for, according to the collective bargaining agreement, are players on their 5th-year option. So I don't know what the dialogue between the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk on this issue is, but it is possible that they do forgive the fine against Brandon Aiyuk, or the fines, which would be $40,000 per day if he does decide to hold out. Now they can also play hardball and say, no, we're not forgiving your fines. That's also a possibility for the 49ers with Brandon Aiyuk. And also, if you fast forward to the regular season, He's on a contract that's worth $14.1 million for the season. So if he doesn't show up by the time that the regular season starts and they haven't yet reached a deal, then Brandon Aiyuk is on the hook for missing his game checks. And those are worth $829,000 per week. It's $14.1 million divided by a 17-game regular season. The 49ers also reserve the right to fine him up to that amount, up to $829,000 for every preseason game that he misses. So theoretically, the 49ers could start really, really making this financially hurt for Brandon Aiyuk less than a month from now, assuming that nothing is done before then and he doesn't show up before then. That'd be August 10th against the Titans in the preseason. They could theoretically fine him up to $829,000 for that first game of the preseason. Just laying out the calendar of how this is going to work. I wanted to give you the uniforms. I wanted to give you the preseason and training camp calendar, and that is the potential fine calendar for the San Francisco 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk. So that's what it's looking like here in August for the 49ers and their star receiver. Anyway, I think everything else is locked, loaded, and ready to go. So that's the update for you. The 49ers just days away from the start of training camp. You heard the uniform schedule. You heard from Willie Snead. That is the 49ers camp schedule, and we're now ready to move forward with the Lombardi Lounge rolling and the YouTube channel rolling. You could subscribe on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Obviously, subscribe on the YouTube channel. Be ready on The Athletic, where we've got our articles all fired up and ready to go. And obviously, be ready for a lot of good food. Today's was a sandwich from this place called Benji's in Nashville. Those of you watching on the YouTube can check it out. Bagels are the specialty. Hal, I worked there. I was getting this Lions tape review that's going to come out on Friday ready for you. I worked there from a breakfast sandwich all the way to the very, very meaty lunch sandwich. And it was all very good. All right, you got to set up for training camp. Leave some of your predictions in the comments section. We're going to be talking about, let's say, position battles. Who do you think is going to grab right guard for the 49ers? Is it going to be Spencer Burford? Is it going to be John Feliciano or dark horse? Does somebody like Ben Barch grab that position? And, by extension, how's this season going to play out at the center position? If you have any thoughts, leave that in the comments section. And that fourth defensive end spot also, to me, is intriguing. I don't think that Drake Jackson's going to be ready for the very start of training camp, at least. So are we going to see Robert Beal grab the spot? And are we going to see the 49ers make another move, perhaps somewhere at safety? I know a lot of people love to talk about Justin Simmons at all times, but the safety position is definitely one that is a little bit of a question entering training camp, with us waiting to see when Talanoa Hufanga is going to be back on that practice field following the torn ACL last year. So drop the predictions in the comments section. Brace yourselves. Training camp is coming. More Brock Purdy film stuff is coming this weekend, and then we are rolling in earnest once camp is officially underway next week.